insecurities holding everything back. Welcome to Reactivating Churches Daily. This is the place where you get those simple ideas that spark your own ideas so that you can help your church and your organization and your life reactivate and unleash the potential you have in making disciples and fulfilling the mission and calling that God's put in your life. You know, our insecurities, we've all got them. It's just a part of who we are, and sometimes we allow them to have more control over us, and sometimes less. But the truth is, as leaders, it's hard and it's difficult not to let our insecurities have a significant play in how we lead and how we move our congregation and our organization forward. And so in order to manage our insecurities, we have to have great self-awareness. In the business world, this is called emotional EQ. What we've got to do is we've got to understand how these emotions come into our life and into our mind as we're trying to lead, as we're trying to make decisions, as we're having conversations with people, these insecurities. And so we've got to have great self-awareness about how God has wired us and how God has created us. I've taken a notebook, and this is where I keep my annual goals, and it's where I keep some of my planning. And one of the documents in there is a compilation of the Strengths Finder test, the Enneagram test, and another personality, the DISC, the Myers-Briggs test. And it's got my results there. And so when I read through that, I'm reminded of how God's created me, how He's made my personality, how He's given me strengths and weaknesses, and how those things interact as I lead forward. You see, as leaders, we have to have great self-awareness of the things that we do. You know, I had a leader quite a few years ago tell me, you know what, you're a people pleaser. And nobody wants to hear that. Nobody truly wants to hear that they're a people pleaser. But you know what? They were right. And unfortunately, there are many pastors and church leaders that are people pleasers. We know the things that will push and prompt people to give us the feedback that fills our cup. And the problem is we begin to make decisions based off of that, not based off of what's the best thing, the right thing for the church or the organization. And so we've got to become incredibly self-aware. One of the things I've also learned about myself is I can do details, but I hate doing details. And so when I begin in recruiting, whether it's a volunteer team or when it's in hiring, I'm bringing some people around me that complement, and together we make a great team. And so if you don't know those areas of your strengths and your weaknesses, then how can you maximize the team that are around you? And you may be in a small church and you may think, well, I don't even have a team. It's just me. No, God's put people around you. Recruit volunteers to come join the process of leading and making disciples and organizing and planning. And you got to bring people in. If you've got a larger staff, or if you're in a marketplace leader and you've got a team of people, you are doing your team and you're doing your church a disservice if you don't understand how you're wired. And so I just want to encourage you. If you don't get your hands around this self-awareness, then you're going to have a lid. You're going to have challenges. You can't build a high-functioning team without fully understanding who you are, how God's wired you. We've all got strengths, and we've all got weaknesses. I believe strongly, as John Maxwell has taught, and Marcus Buckingham and other people have written, lead as much as you can in your strength zone. And the more time you spend in your strength zone, the better the team gets. The problem is, if you don't know what you're really, really good at, what's the one or two things that you simply bring the most value to, then unfortunately you're going to keep doing lots of things. So today's simple tip, I want you to make a list of your strengths. And I want you to make a list of the things that you struggle with, your weaknesses. And then I want you to begin to look and evaluate that. If you're really brave, I want you to have the courage to give it to your spouse or maybe a close colleague, that you can have them, okay, what are your strengths and your weaknesses? And see if the way you see yourself matches with the way they see themselves. Then I want you to begin looking at your work and how it aligns with your strengths and your weaknesses. Now remember, there are things that you're going to have to do that you don't want to do, and you may not even be any good at. We all have those, but we want to spend more time in our strength zone than in the drudgery zone. And so I just want to encourage you. Today's simple tip, identify your strengths, your weaknesses. Allow someone else to make a list of your strengths and your weaknesses, and see what shines back at you from that piece of paper.